How do you think the media is handling kind of these growing instances of Trump falling asleep in meetings or maybe seeming like he's losing a step? Like, when is it a critical mass that it becomes book-worthy, right, for example?
That is to a large degree because we saw what happened with Biden, and while we covered it, we didn't cover it. Maybe we didn't ask as many questions as we should have at the time. And I think it is a legitimate question for any president of any age, but particularly anybody who is like in the range of being an octogenarian, right? We cover it all the time.
Jake Tapper made no qualms on his feelings towards the 46th president of the United States, Joe Biden. Thus,
were you friends with Jake Tapper?
No. Well, I knew Jake forever. I've known Jake for 25 years.
How'd you feel about the book?
Look, here's what I'd like to say about that. Is I think that Jake is a complete and utter. I think that he is. I think that he is a really poor journalist, and beyond that, I don't think he's a very decent human being.
Hunter Biden, the president's son, fired back at him recently on Don Lemon's YouTube show, and he also streams on Twitch.
He didn't recognize George Clooney at that fundraiser, or that he couldn't come up with the name of Jake Sullivan behind the scenes. And
that's Biden.
That's the not being able to recognize George Clooney is Biden.
I mean, I saw George Clooney. Fine, okay.
Anyway,
we're gonna,
or not knowing the name,
not
being able to come up with the name of his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan. Yeah. There's a difference between that or people, senators that we refer to in the book, having serious questions about how much President Biden is actually running things. That's different, and I would argue more significant than Biden tripping on a commencement stage.
Nonetheless, when Jake Tapper worked with Axios's Alex Thompson to outline Joe Biden's mental decline for their published book Original Sin,
as a person, I don't like Jake. And so I guess what normally someone, when asked a question like that, like me, is supposed to say is like, oh, well, here's how I feel about it. I think he's full of, that's what I think.
You think Jake Tapper's full of?
I think he is the Brick Tamlin of his generation. Yeah.
I know Jake is a former colleague.
Oh, I know you do. Yeah. And I don't know what you think of Jake, but I do know this, is that what Jake espoused and has continued in the way that he has spoken about me, the way he has spoken about my mother, the way that he has spoken about my father, the idea that I would tell you and be full of like everybody else usually is and say, well, I'd like to respect Jake's long career in journalism and, he's done good things before. You know what? I don't have to say that. I'm not running for anything. I'm certainly not running for class president, and I'm not running to be the most popular man on TV. And so that's the way I feel about Jake, because I have a real personal grievance with him.
Hunter didn't hold back in the slightest on the CNN anchor.
But right now, I really don't like you. I think you're doing a disservice to Joe and also to the American people. When are you going to examine, what is going on with Trump? Joe Biden conducted himself for 4 years taking care of the United States. He took meetings, he went overseas, he negotiated with other leaders. This president has been pure chaos, which indicates to me that there is something wrong with him. We will never get a straight answer on his medical examinations, what medication he is on. And yet you have gone after Joe Biden with a vengeance that I'm very disappointed in you. I enjoy watching your show, but not anymore. And I think right now you ought to start writing another book examining Trump and how erratic and what he is doing.
We cover President Trump every day for 2 hours, every day from 5 to 7 Eastern, and we cover all the things you talk about.
Nor did this caller when C-SPAN hosted Jake Tapper live on their program.
What would you say to him if you...
No, exactly. I don't have to say... I'd say exactly what I just said. Yeah.
You said...
And I have. Jake, I do not like you. I don't like you at all, and I have a whole host of reasons why. And that's final. There you go. Looking directly into the camera. Yeah.
Biden would share more with Sean Ryan on his podcast, which lasted over 5 hours, mind you.
I almost got in a fight with Jake Tapper at the Super Bowl I forget when it was. I mean, the first Eagles Super Bowl. Not the first, but when it must have been. It was shortly after my brother's death. And he had done something that I thought was totally up. And I told him if it weren't in front of a lot of people, I would knock him the out. And this is how much of a he is. He called my dad and demanded an apology.
What?
Yeah. He's a grown man. He called one of my dad's staffers and he goes and he said, I felt threatened and Hunter owes me an apology. And by the way, I felt incredibly justified. I'm not going to tell this story because it's too convoluted. But just that's who Jake Tapper is. I mean, he talks big, hides behind a pen and a desk. And I don't think that he contributes in any way to the discourse or provides any real journalism whatsoever.
I will be very, as always, objective here, okay? I think in some aspects, they are both correct. And I'm not being a fence straddler. I'm going to give you two perspectives that mesh. The first is a son will always stick up for their dad 99 times out of 100, except for the worst possible scenario. We heard reports and rumblings about how in the lead up to the election, they are keeping a really close circle. And in a lot of cases, they have enablers. Now, if you are someone, okay, who believes that Trump is losing it, which I have thought for a while, okay, and we all have, because anyone can see that he has completely lost it. He's been losing it over the years. It's just bad, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. There were many moments where it was quite clear that Joe Biden should not be on that stage. And I say that with the utmost respect to Hunter, all right? He's protecting his dad. I get it. I will do anything to protect my parents too, all right? That was one of the worst debates that we've ever seen, objectively speaking. The fallout was just a simple cause and effect of what happens when you have someone who cannot communicate their points, stumbles over their own words, and shows their age. Now, they could say whatever they want. They're entitled to do that. To say, well, this happened, well, that happened, well, he didn't do this, and da-da-da. Fine. Whatever excuse they may give, it wouldn't apply to someone many years his junior. It just wouldn't. And when I'm looking at this through a leftist scope, all I can think of is, yeah, like, what do you expect? What do you expect out of this performance? Were you surprised? I wasn't. I'd seen the press conferences. I've seen them all. And he didn't even make Trump look good because he stumbled over his words a ton. And some were going back to the stutter that Joe Biden got over. Like, yeah, I am very sympathetic. It's just age, man. That's it. And I'm not being ageist. But if a president is going to be 80-some years old, running the country, not a fan. Never going to be a fan of it. Now, from Jake Tapper's perspective, first off, I want to talk to the witnesses who were at that Super Bowl party. I want some confirmation here. I'm not calling Hunter Biden a liar by any stretch of the imagination, but what I want to hear is from other people who witnessed this. And Joe Biden would never, ever leak something like that. In essence, that Tapper called him and tattled on Hunter and demanded an apology. Like, dude, you are weak effing sauce if you did that. Demanding an apology. Why don't you talk it out with him? You want an apology and you run to his dad? Was this preschool? Not even. It's childish. It shows you're not a serious person. As for the reporting, I'm mixed There were no sources that went on the record. Coming from a sports background, that doesn't surprise me, but the fact that they were gloating the number of sources, but not one went on the record is pretty interesting to me. I think he was doing his job, and he was getting fed information that he ran with. That's how I see it. How we were taught is you need 3 sources to confirm a story. That has changed a lot since I graduated from college. A real lot. And I do think that they potentially had some credible sources. But to have that many not go on the record is somewhat puzzling to me. So how I see it, this is a son protecting his dad and getting out there in these podcast interviews to try and dispel some, if not a lot, of misinformation that has festered throughout the electorate through our mass media. For Tapper, there are some inconsistencies. And his rebuke of the C-SPAN caller saying, oh, we cover the president all the time, and you should watch our show. Yeah, that's different than writing a book, man. And then not only writing the book, shamelessly promoting it on every single broadcast that you had on CNN, to the point where the suits even said, all right, this is getting out of hand. We got to stop this. We need to create a new rule. I mean, you were shameless about it. So again, that is my take. What is yours? Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYT Sports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.